Few feelings in gaming match that of opening a legendary card. The gold orange glow, the incredulous innkeeper. It's enough to make you forget that the special PNG you just unlocked will never make it into any of your decks ever. But this list is not about those legendaries. This is about the ones you're excited to open, and the ones that have defined the competitive world of Hearthstone. This is a top 10 Hearthstone legendary cards. Number 10, Edwin Van Cle. Being brought by the winning lineup of the first 7 Hearthstone World Championships until it was nerfed and then rotated out of the standard format, Edwin Van Cle is an icon of competitive Hearthstone. Gaining +2/+2 for every other card you've played this turn, Rogue's access to cheap cards like Shadow Step, Preparation, and Backstab could mean massive Edwins coming down early in the game. Compared to other staples from classic Hearthstone, Edwin was incredibly efficient. Take Mountain Giant for example. It can be a big-bodied minion as early as turn 4, but it requires building your deck around the effect or otherwise playing passively for the first few turns. Edwin, meanwhile, can be a threatening tower of stats while you get your game plan ready as usual. Now firmly residing in the wild format, the competition is a bit too quick for old Edwin, but it's not as completely outclassed as its classic cohorts like Felguard. While I can't put it ahead of some of the more presently relevant cards later in the list, Edwin's longevity at the pinnacle of competition in Hearthstone earns it the number 10 spot. Number 9. Okay, kinda cheating here, but this spot is going to be the Highlander payoff cards in general. At first I wanted to put the original Reno Jackson, but then I thought about Reno Lone Ranger or maybe Zephyrus, and ultimately I decided that the number 9 spot should be shared by the notable non-duplicate cards. The original Reno Jackson, released in League of Explorers in the game's first year and a half, totally reshaped deck building. Being a neutral card, it could theoretically slot into any deck, with Warlock being the best fit with its need for healing and its consistent draw to mitigate the singleton nature of the deck. But Reno became a lot more appealing when Meat Streets of Gadgetzan arrived a year later, and brought even more payoffs for unique lists. While cards like Inkmaster Celia and Curl the Unshackled were alright, the real prize was Kazakus. A versatile card that could generate a 1, 5, or 10 mana potion of appropriate potency, it could serve as burn damage, card draw, or notably even a mass polymorph effect. Raza the Chained also became a very notable card with the subsequent release of Death Knight Anduin. Fast forward 3 years and the new generation of Highlander cards were revealed, and while they've got a lot to learn, I believe they can save the world. At least Reno and Sir Fenil were okay, but Zephyrus and Dino Tamer Brand allowed Uldum Highlander Hunter to be a tier 1 deck for every format for 2 straight years. While a little too soon to declare anything for the most recent wave of Highlander cards in Showdown in the Badlands, Reno Lone Ranger's board evaporating effect is one of the strongest we have ever seen in the history of Hearthstone. And all these cards have to be so strong since their handicap is so noticeable in the consistency of your deck. So while yes, these card effects are quite strong if you look at them unconditionally, they are only at number 9 for the big opportunity cost of running only single copies of cards in your deck. Number 8. Alright, kind of cheating here, but Captain Hagar from Battlegrounds. Look, it has a little dragon ornament on the top of the card, so it's a legendary, alright? I think what makes this card so notable is that it went from being a minion you could purchase heaps of, to a hero card with the gold edition effect becoming the hero power. Pirates were always an exciting playstyle with their need for high actions per minute, and Hagar took it to the next level. Combined with cards like Freedealing Gambler or just having multiple Hoggers, you could get some powerful boards built, but you were always vulnerable to Bob refusing you any more pirates. Gone, but still with us, it was one of the most exciting cards ever to triple into with Reno. Alright, that was my soapbox. No more Battlegrounds cards on this top 10 legendary list. Number 7.
You're Reggie Rocky with my nonsense and hopeless poking projects. You won't stop till you're about to the top with all the hot dips.
Alright, kind of cheating here, but Joan Star. Look, you can only play 1 star card in your deck, so it's a legendary. The star cards were generally lackluster. The Hoenn starters spring to mind, but Latias Star was able to be a solid striker for Lugia Blastoise strategies, and Umbreon Star could be a fierce disruption tool, especially after a timely Rockets admin. But I'm gonna go with a different evolution for this spot in Jolteon. With how valuable your 1 attack per turn is in Pokemon, Any way to place damage counters without using it up is valuable. And long before the days of Galarian Zigzagoon and Scoop Up Net, you had one Joan Star that could end up prized, and the risk of Super Scoop Up. Combined with Bannet EX's Poke Power and maybe some Cursed Eyes from Absol EX, you could score some surprise KOs, especially considering how paltry the HP totals for cards were compared to what we have today. And this entry has nothing to do with this screenshot of someone who may or may not be me playing against someone who may or may not be 3-time Pokemon TCG World Champion Jason Klaczynski. Alright, let's refocus here. Number 6. Alright, sorry, kind of cheating here, since the reason you can only play one Zodiac Rapier is it being limited to one, but I'm still going to count it. Part of one of Yu-Gi-Oh's Tier 0 formats back when they wouldn't crop up every few months, Zodiac was an incredibly consistent deck that got really out of hand, with Rapier doing it.
Rats, we're rats, we're the rats.
Most dramatically being present in Zodiac's Fusion Substitute combo, Rapier is both an archetypal Foolish Burial and allows monsters exceed on top of the ability to call forth more Rapiers from the deck, since its effect is not a hard once per turn. And with no, for the rest of the turn you can only summon Beast Warriors or similar Xenolock, Fire Formation Tenki to search it, and even Broad Bull on release, Rapier was instrumental to one of the strongest decks of all time, and earns its spot at number 6 on this list of top 10 Hearthstone legendary cards. Wait, that's the name of the video? Oh man, I really need to focus back up. Alright. Number 5. Kinda cheating, but Camera Dude from the Adventure Time Card Wars app. 0 mana like the rest of the black cards, the mana cost is actually not that impressive for Card Wars. With Brief Power, Which Way, Scroll of Bad Breath, and Crystal Ball to zoom through your deck, you're never really wanting for mana. That is, unless your opponent preemptively hit you with Camera Dude's Floop effect. Good luck getting any traction in your combos when you have 2 less magic points to speak of on your turn, and get ready to get blasted by Dr. Death, Field Reaper, and a Sergeant Mushroom. Number 4. Kinda cheating here, but the concept of moving cross-country for a job and having to find an apartment and not knowing anyone where you're going and leaving all your friends and family behind, but the opportunity is pretty good, but it feels hard saying goodbye, and maybe you've been a little distracted and you've been neglecting the Hearthstone YouTube channel you have, and you're kind of unsure about how to make friends, and while you're there, and you're worried, you know, if the job doesn't go well, you know, you think you think you can do it, but then come on.
Did you hear that, Kendrick?
Number 3 is Patches the Pirate, with one of the most iconic voice lines in the game.
I'm in charge now.
While not having charge anymore, Patches remains to this day a powerful card. I mean, just look at the recently buffed Treasure Distributor. While people familiar with other card games, who might those be, might say, oh wow, it thins a card from the deck, it really is the simple extra 1/1 body that makes this card so strong. And while you can get a free 1/1 by just playing Wisp, you really have to think about this card like it turns the first pirate you play each game into an alley cat. Oh, a 1/3 with upside, and it summons an extra 1/1 all for 1 mana? Sign me up. Plus, it acts as extra synergies for any when you summon a pirate card like Shift Cannon or Toy Boat. Every class was just shoving in South Sea Captain and Patches on release, regardless of the rest of their strategy. With or without charge, this card is one of the strongest ever, and certainly deserves the number 3 spot on this list, and you could even put it at number 1. Number 2. Kinda cheating here, but Gen and Baku. If I had to choose one, it would probably be Baku, since Warrior, Paladin, and later even Demon Hunter were so powerful with their hero powers. But even Shaman and Warlock were not slouches either. Both releasing in the same set and both rotating early, it's hard not to group these two, and so they remain, conjoined here at number 2. Reusing the Justicar Trueheart assets from way back in the Grand Tournament, Baku was able to produce inordinate amounts of tokens to buff for Paladin, or incredible amounts of armor for Warrior if that was more your style. The biggest issue with these cards was that, while building with only even or odd cost cards might seem difficult, the design team seemed to vastly overestimate the downside of a couple Frostwolf Warlords or similarly mediocre cards to justify the incredible consistency afforded to you from a hero power you have access to every single turn. Even later, decks like Quest Hunter could experiment with getting an upgraded hero power, and Hero Power Mage could try out a cheaper one. These cards are an example of how, despite Hearthstone players constantly whining about how much RNG there is, effects that limit deck building and give a strong effect at the start of absolutely every single game makes games repetitive and formulaic. Number 3.
The fentanyl got me moving like a claymation figure.
Kinda cheating here, but Lurrus of the Dream Den was most notable among the rest of the companion cards that actually led Wizards to have to nerf the keyword as a whole. For the low opportunity cost of having all permanents in your deck cost 2 or less, not even instants and sorceries mind you, you get to start with this as a free extra card in hand. And while the stat line, lifelink, and spell recycling ability are nice, in a game as card advantage heavy as Magic, that extra card is gold. This card is an example of how, despite Magic players constantly whining about how much RNG there is, effects that limit deck building and give a strong effect at the start of absolutely every single game makes games repetitive and formulaic. Wait, I thought I just said that. What's going on? Number 3.
Alright, so who am I? I'm Max Deutsch, I'm 24 years old, I live in San Francisco, and I would consider myself an extreme learner.
Kinda cheating here, but Het Nessing wary? You knew this card was going to pop up here eventually. For measly 5 mana, you're getting a 6 attack minion, which is premium considering you usually expect 5 attack. And while you might be thinking, wow, I would play that vanilla, there's another delicious cherry effect plopped on top and drizzled with chocolate sauce. You are able to destroy any beast. Now, aside from obvious use cases like removing Moonfang or Elder Longneck, you can even use this on your own beast to trigger death rattles like Henchclan Hogsteed. Beautifully versatile and dominating the Hearthstone Championship circuit for decades, Het Nessing Wary is number 3 Beast Hearthstone Legendary of all time. Number 3.
Number 8. Fill your plate. When this fat fish died, we ate catfish fried. But don't let this mustache fool you. This fish is all woman. And a crustacean drool cube. How are you getting dumber? Excuse?
Kinda cheating here, but Lightforged Cariel? An okay battlecry and a decent hero power, the big ticket is really the immovable object. Losing no durability, Cariel gets a weapon for the rest of the game, and, oh yeah, by the way, takes half damage. In validating combo and OTK strategies, you had better have had your Wheaties before fighting Cariel. Or you could bring a Restaurant Viper, but if a card is making people run dedicated weapon removal, it's probably a little too good. I mean, just look at these rank 1 legend and top 8 deck lists. That doesn't even scratch the surface of the success of Cariel. Who better to sit behind while your Denathrius charges up? And who better to defend yourself against the ubiquitous Denathrius of the time than Cariel herself? A premier defensive option, Cariel stands alone at number 3. Number 3.
And best of all, he's blue-colored and knows how to handle the females. Speaking of females, the Sonic universe might also be classified as hot chick heaven because there's such a mess of very beautiful and tough women that it'll make you love the franchise even more.
Kinda cheating here, but Pink Diamond Giannis from NBA 2K18. With high 80s 3-point shooting for some reason, Hall of Fame finishing badges, and the peak of blow-by cheese, Giannis was a fantastic no-skill option for my team. Plus, with the shoes feature, you could throw a 3-point shooting bonus sneaker on and have Giannis look like Jamal Murray in important situations out there. For a tutorial, just do one crossover blow by Kawhi and yam it all over Shaq for realistic basketball simulation. And if you try to play off him, you realize that if you sag off, your swag's off. And splash. The epitome of 2K cheese, Pink Diamond Giannis is number 3 on top 10 Hearthstone legendaries. Number 3. Kinda cheating here, but
I'm pointing the way!
Iceblock? Crazy that a secret can be considered so strong, but a card that allows you to blank your opponent's offensive strategies while also activating your secret lovers is a spectacular card. Used both in tempo-based secret mage strategies and in mage combo decks that just need an extra turn or two sometimes, it's a small spell that can save your behind. Incredibly frustrating to play against, people have been known to run Eater of Secrets just to avoid dealing with the immunity this card provides. It can often feel like running into a wall playing against a mage with one of these up, just attacking with all you have and knowing it's not going to result in a victory. That's when you remember that you can actually have 2 copies of Iceblock in your deck, and now the opposing mage has likely assembled all 5 pieces of Exodia now. That's a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, by the way. I try not to go outside Hearthstone for these videos. Maybe this is more testament to how years of secret synergy can become problematic, or how mage's ability to OTK have been too fierce, but I think Iceblock really does feel like the star player of these strategies. The straw that stirs the drink. You could even think of the card this way. If the strongest effect a card can have is to win the game, this card would be the second strongest since you can't lose the game. With nerfs to Secret Mage, like with Cabal Lackey not putting secrets down on turn 1, and faster, stronger payoffs more widely available, Iceblock is not quite the menace it used to be, but its prolonged run as the boogeyman of mage matchups earns it the number 3 spot. Some honorable mentions. And finally, number 1 strongest legendary card in Hearthstone. Patches.